Ladies and gentlemen, we are now reconvening our council meeting and Fire Protection District Board meeting. So we will now move on to item of advertised public hearing at 8 p.m. certain. So I'd like to turn that over to our city manager, Mr. Gillison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a very long title, so everyone bear with me. F4 is the consideration of resolutions of...
Mr. City Manager.
Oh, that's
G1.
right. This is, sorry. Yep, this is G1. Thank you. This is a much shorter title. So item G1 is our third public hearing. We have one more after this, two more actually after this, to review proposed city council district boundaries. Includes preliminary analysis, any maps that are submitted from the public, and a staff presentation of the prepared maps using the previously discussed criteria. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lori Sassoon, our Deputy City Manager, for the staff report. Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Gillison. And this evening, normally we have our consultant with us from National Demographics Corporation, Todd Tatum, but in the abundance of caution, we agreed to have Todd sit this one out, and I am presenting his slides with you this evening. So to recap, we have had those two initial hearings prior to tonight. Here's kind of a schedule of where we've been, where we are, and where we are going. And as the city manager noted, we do have two public hearings subsequent to this one that are scheduled. So just an overview of the districting rules and goals. We're guided by federal laws. We're guided by California criteria and some fairly new legislation called the Fair Maps Act that require us to prioritize certain criteria. They're listed here: geographic contiguity and communities of interest being the primary, but not the only criteria that we can consider. And then we have traditional redistricting principles around respecting voter choices, minimizing shifts between districts, and so forth. So thus far, NDC has developed 4 draft maps for council review, and maps 101, 102, and 103 were provided to you at the last meeting. More recently, 103 is a map that we provided to the plaintiff in this lawsuit that we previously discussed, and also along with the 104. So tonight I really want to focus on showing you 103 and 104, as those are the maps we have provided to the plaintiff in our redistricting lawsuit. This is 103. You've seen this prior, and this is on our website. This has been available to the public for quite a bit of time. And this is the data with regard to 103. So of particular interest to the plaintiff is Latino CVAP, Latino Citizen Voting Age Population. So you'll note here that you see that statistic kind of in the middle of the screen here, Hispanic CVAP. So after this map was presented to the plaintiff, we did have some discussions with them, working together, collaborating to see if we can reach some agreement. And the result of that, we have map 104. So map 104 is based on 103. It provides some adjustments that we believe that the plaintiff may find to be agreeable. And so we have presented this map to them last week. So as you can tell, I'll just kind of toggle between the two. They're fairly similar, but they do have some adjustments that push the boundaries of D2 a little to the north. And that is potentially something that might help us to reach an amicable settlement. So this is the data for map 104. It's very similar to 103. It does slightly improve Latino CVAP in D2. So a review of our public mapping tools, and I do have a little update for you that's not in the slides. So we've provided the public with some mapping and mapping tools on our website with the NDC's assistance that provide really an easy-to-use, non-technical way for anyone to provide a map. And we've welcomed those maps over the last several hearings. You know, we've discussed, and we worked with our community affairs team to really put out the word and invite some maps. So tonight, I actually have at your dais. We did receive a map just a little before 5 o'clock tonight from a member of the public. And we do want to thank him for that map. We'll put that up on our website tomorrow so members of the public can see that also. But we have not had time, frankly, to look at this map, to share it with our demographer, or to provide you any feedback with regard to the data behind the map. So you have a copy of it. We want to thank the sender for his work on this. And at the next hearing, we'll provide you, we'll have this in our PowerPoint, and we'll provide you our insights and our analysis about this map that you have in front of you. But again, we have these kits available if anyone else would like to submit a map. This is a simple map drawing tool that we have up there. We call our public participation kit. And then we have a version where someone can use Excel if they'd like to go in and use Excel to draw a map. The Excel kind of helps them do the population balancing that's required under the federal law. And then there is this map review tool that people can use. Again, just another tool we've made available to invite the public to participate. So with regard to our next steps, we are here in the middle at the we are doing the third public hearing. We've established the 24th as our suggestion to the public to provide us final maps by. Although that's not a firm deadline, we'd certainly welcome maps past that date, but probably after the next hearing, we're going to be kind of firming up the maps. So the time is of the essence, if you will, if someone does have a map to submit. At the next meeting, February 2nd, we'll be recommending that you make a preliminary selection of your preferred map based on what we've provided to you. And then on February 16th, we would suggest you're adopting the map and then triggering adoption of ordinances and so forth, sort of the formalities that will lead up after that in March, so that we can hit this April 17th deadline for the Registrar of Voters. So with that, just available for questions. If you have any questions on map 103 or 104, any questions about the tools, any comments from the public, or questions about the process as it relates to the settlement agreement. We went over that in detail at the last meeting, so I will not recap that. But just a note to say that we're kind of moving on parallel tracks, trying to work with the plaintiffs pursuant to the settlement agreement, while at the same time working on the public participation process and the legally required public hearings.
Very good.
So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Very well done, as a matter of fact. Should
Thank
go into consulting someday. No, you did a great job. Thank you. Is there any questions of staff before I open the public hearing on this matter? Seeing none, public hearing is now open. Any members of the public, or do you have speakers? Okay, we have 2 speakers this evening on this matter. Michael Perez is our first speaker.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
My concern was the data, and I didn't understand. Is this data that we're looking at and circling, saying, what's it going to be out there? If I take an empty lot, will it show build out or will it show nobody? That's my question.
Can you answer that?
Sure. So if you're asking, the way the maps are drawn are based on the population at the last census. So when the Census Bureau releases its population from the census that was just done in 2021, then that's on which the maps are based. Does that make
Excellent.
sense?
Makes perfect
Okay.
sense. So the falsehood then is, I could circle a big area that has empty lots, and we're going to create this council area, and it's going to change. The next 10 years it's going to change. More development, more people moving in. So the demographics, I think we should give them the flexibility to do speculation.
So, Mr. Perez, we're legally required to use only the census data from the last census. We have to show that the population is balanced now, so we can't project into the future on a population that doesn't yet exist and draw boundaries that don't wind up population balanced now. Literally, the maps would be invalid. So we're always going to be in arrears. A good example of that is when the census was done in 2020, only 25% of the resort was developed. We know that there are going to be approximately another 1,600 residential units going into the resort, but because they didn't exist then, and we don't know whether they're going to be occupied by 1, 2, 3, however many people, we cannot use those for projections. We only can use literally what was actually the data that was in the census and stuff. So
Restrict you from outside this process to do that?
what was that?
Does it restrict you from outside this process to do that?
Yeah, the law requires we redistrict every 10 years following the census. So every 10 years, we will be redistricting.
Okay. Just because when I would do school enrollments, we would get developments.
This
and
is
put 'em
not,
out.
this is totally Totally, much,
Different,
much
yes, I
different.
understand.
There's all kind, it's not just population, it's ethnicity, it's communities of interest, HOAs, you don't want to split up a homeowners association and have two different, so there's a whole lot of other things that goes into the process.
I was just hoping we could speculate, but apparently we can't,
Cannot.
based on census.
Yeah.
I like the modification at Foothill and East. My concern was on the northwest corner, there's a big chunk of, that's being developed right now, but it's in different service area, different council area. I saw the original plan where it was included in southern Foothill. That parcel has about 5 different layers from different areas. I hope we can avoid that. But I didn't see a layer for census tract on there. And I didn't see like lighting and landscape districts to overlay that. And I didn't see school districts to overlay that, just so you can see where I'm taking a city council member, and it says Etiwanda. This side is Council 1, this side is 3, where it's gonna really change the housing, because the first set of houses on Etiwanda were one development. As you go to the back, or that westerly, there's another development. So I see our city council representing 2 service areas that might be in conflict, 2 school districts that might be in conflict, different areas that are putting them in conflict, and then not being able to represent that community, which is in Etiwanda, on the west side. You got so much before the Victoria development. So it's nice that we use streets, but if you look at the development that was in the city plan that the city had adopted and developed, those houses along Etiwanda are part of another development, not part of the village of Victoria. So I was just hoping we could see some more information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There will be 2 more public hearings on this matter, so. Okay, is there any other speakers? Yes, we had one other speaker, I'm sorry. Terry Musa?
Thank you for the opportunity. I just really wanted to say that I'm against redistricting, and I just wanted to read a little comment as to why I oppose it. So please keep Rancho Cucamonga whole and do not split the city of Rancho Cucamonga into multiple districts. Rancho Cucamonga has a strong sense of identity and has historically been one or mostly all in one Senate, Assembly, or congressional district. The proposed congressional, state assembly, and Senate district maps unnecessarily split our community and our neighborhoods, diminishing community power and our opportunity for strong representation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
Mayor,
those,
if I can make a comment, I want
Yes,
to thank
please
the
do.
resident for her comments, and we completely agree with your position. We certainly wish we were not splitting us into different assembly districts, and unfortunately, those decisions were made by the State Redistricting Commission, and Rancho Cucamonga was split into 3 congressional districts
3.
and
3,
2
2, and
Senate
2.
and assembly districts. That is not a decision by the city council, and we appreciate the resident and the residents who opposed those moves and worked with us, but we unfortunately did not win that battle. So we agree. What we're talking about tonight is city council districts.
right.
So a different topic. Rancho Cucamonga is still one city, just that we have 4 council members elected by district who work together to govern together. So
Very good. And we do appreciate those remarks, because I can assure you, ma'am, that we opposed vehemently and spoke at different public hearings dealing with trying to keep Rancho Cucamonga in 1 Senate district, 1 Assembly district, and 1 congressional district, but we did not succeed in that effort. So thank you for your comments. Okay, is there any other speakers that wish to address this matter? Anyone on the telephone?
No additional speakers.
Then we will close the advertised public hearing and bring it back to the council for any further questions from the council or comments. Okay, if none.
Just one, Mr. Mayor. I just again want to thank, I didn't get a chance, we got it before, just as we sat down. So just encourage public participation, encourage residents to get engaged, get involved, and get online and get some maps in. So this is a public process, or hoping it's a public process, and just encourage participation.
Okay,
Question, do you have a side-by-side of 103 and 104, the maps?
I don't, but I could.
Just out of curiosity to see this, not a big adjustment, but just to see an idea and that, and we submitted that second map, 104, to address the plaintiff's concerns.
Let me see if you can see this. Do I have to be in slideshow mode for them to see? I do.
That's right. The map 104 brings up District 2 to touch baseline, which was one of the comments that we received back from the plaintiff's attorney.
Here's 103. So I can't directly show my screen, guys. Can I show my actual screen or no?
Differences.
So I can toggle. Yeah. The 104. It's like the eye doctor. 104 and 103. They're similar. The differences are really in the center of the map, predominantly.
yeah, I see it, the purple.
Yeah, and a
Comes
little bit
down.
on the far eastern border as well. Because every time a border shifts, you're moving other borders because you're balancing population. We're always wanting to be within plus or minus 5% of every district has to be within plus or minus 5. So you're moving to gain, so.
Okay, my memory's not that good. You show it and show me a picture and then show me a new one. I forgot the
I hear
last
you.
one. But anyway, I'll just do an overlay and kind of.
We
Get
can
it.
provide that too if you'd like.
Okay,
We can
that'd be
provide side by
perfect.
side, and for the benefit of the public, all these will be these are available on our website. 103 and 104 are available to be looked at along with the demographic data on our website,
Okay.
so, which is Draw RC.
As well as the one we received today will
We'll put
then.
that up tomorrow, yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, any other questions? Then if none, we will, there's no motion necessary this evening, it's just another public hearing, and that fourth public hearing is going to take place on February 2nd at time certain, 8 p.m., like this evening, in the council chambers, and we invite the community to submit their comments and review documents at www.drawrc.org. Again, that's www.drawrc.org. So we will now move on to